The glass shattered against the marble floor so loudly that the entire penthouse seemed to flinch. Red wine spread across the white stone like a slow wound, dripping toward the expensive Persian rug. The woman standing beside the shattered glass didn't move. At 38, she was known across the city as a ruthless billionaire, a woman who built an empire by never apologizing, never hesitating, and never needing anyone. Her black silk dress was flawless, her diamond earrings caught the light of the skyline behind her, but her hands were shaking. Across from her stood a tired single father in worn jeans and a faded navy hoodie, holding the hand of his sleepy 6-year-old daughter. The contrast between them felt almost unreal, a queen of glass towers and a man who still smelled faintly of motor oil and laundry detergent. The woman stared at him for a long moment before finally speaking the words that seemed impossible coming from someone like her. She wanted a baby, and she was asking him for help. The man blinked, confused, almost amused by the absurdity of it all. Out of the millions of men in the world, why him? Before we continue, if you believe every story hides a lesson somewhere inside it, take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share this story with someone who loves emotional journeys, and subscribe to Humanity Stories so you never miss the next one. 3 hours earlier, that same man had been kneeling beside a broken bicycle outside a small grocery store on a quiet street. The evening sun was fading, painting the sky orange behind low buildings. His daughter sat on the curb swinging her legs, humming softly while he fixed a loose chain with grease-stained fingers. Life had taught him patience, the kind that grows slowly through sleepless nights, unpaid bills, and the quiet responsibility of raising a child alone. His wife had died 2 years earlier after a sudden illness that left the hospital room smelling of antiseptic and unfinished dreams. Since then, every day had been a quiet battle between exhaustion and love. But when his daughter laughed, the world always felt a little less heavy. That evening, as they walked home pushing the repaired bicycle, a black luxury car slid to a silent stop beside the sidewalk. Its windows were tinted dark enough to reflect the streetlights like mirrors. The rear door opened slowly, and the woman stepped out. People in the city knew her name the way they knew the skyline. She owned half the towers rising above the streets. News channels called her fearless. Magazines called her unstoppable. Employees called her terrifying. But the man standing on the sidewalk saw something different. He saw a woman who looked strangely lost. She had been watching him for several minutes before stepping out of the car. At first it had been curiosity. She had never seen a grown man kneel in the dirt so patiently just to fix a child's bicycle chain. She had never seen someone smile that gently while doing it. In her world, everything moved quickly: deals, money, power. Nothing stopped for something as small as a loose chain. Yet there he was, completely focused on his daughter. And something inside her chest had tightened in a way she didn't understand. Her life was filled with glass offices and private jets, with meetings where people nodded at everything she said. She could buy anything she wanted: art, buildings, islands if she wished. But there was one thing the empire couldn't purchase: time. And time had quietly taken something from her. Doctors had told her the truth just a month earlier in a sterile office that smelled faintly of disinfectant and sadness. Years of relentless work had pushed everything else aside: relationships, family, motherhood. Now the window was almost closed. If she wanted a child, she had to decide immediately. But the men in her world felt like strangers made of ambition and calculation. None of them looked like fathers. And when she saw the tired man fixing the bicycle, something unexpected had happened. For the first time in years, she felt the quiet presence of something real, a life not built from money but from love. So she had followed him. Not in a cruel way, not with the arrogance people expected from her. She simply asked her driver to keep the car at a distance while she watched a man and his daughter walk through the evening streets. They stopped at a bakery where he bought one small pastry and carefully split it in half. They laughed about something she couldn't hear. It looked peaceful. And suddenly, the billion-dollar empire she owned felt strangely empty. That was how they ended up standing in the towering penthouse above the city hours later. She had offered to pay him for his time, explaining that she wanted to discuss something unusual. The man had hesitated, but curiosity, and the promise of enough money to fix the leaking roof of his small house, made him agree. But now that they were face to face, her confidence had cracked. That was when the wine glass slipped from her hand. Because asking for a business deal was easy. Asking for something deeply human was terrifying. She looked at the sleeping child now curled on the penthouse couch, wrapped in a blanket the housekeeper had quietly brought. The girl's small hand still held a corner of her father's sleeve even in sleep. The billionaire woman had spent her life surrounded by adults who chased power. She had never seen loyalty like that. Her voice, usually sharp and commanding, softened as she tried to explain. She spoke about doctors, about time running out, about wanting a child who would grow up knowing kindness instead of boardrooms and headlines. She admitted she had watched him that evening. And she told him the truth, that he seemed like the kind of father the world needed more of. The man listened quietly. The city lights behind the glass walls flickered like distant stars. At first he thought it was some strange joke from the rich, another reminder that people like him existed in a different universe from people like her. But when he looked into her eyes, he didn't see arrogance anymore. He saw fear. The kind of fear people hide behind success. He thought about his daughter sleeping on the couch. About the nights he stayed awake worrying if he was doing enough for her. About the way she still whispered, "Good night, Mom," toward the empty side of the room before falling asleep. Life had taken so much from them. But it had also given them each other. And suddenly he understood that the woman standing in front of him had everything, except that. The conversation lasted long into the night, drifting through silence, questions, hesitation, and honesty neither of them expected. It wasn't a negotiation anymore. It was two completely different lives briefly crossing in the quiet space between loneliness and hope. Somewhere near dawn, the man gently lifted his daughter from the couch. She stirred slightly, wrapping her arms around his neck as children do when they trust the world completely.